Hello and welcome to the Working Tools Podcast 100th episode.
Ladies and gentlemen, brethren all, welcome to the Working Tools Podcast, a casual conversation around Freemasonry. First, it's important to note that our thoughts and opinions are our own and do not reflect those of our Grand Lodge or respective craft or concordant bodies. Please connect with us and ask questions via our website at theworkingtoolspodcast.com.
And now what brings us to bringing Trevor, Brother Trevor McKeown on board. We're always looking to have fresh perspectives on our things, on our topics and our conversations. And Trevor is one of the probably most well-read guys in our area. And being that he's in charge of all of those documents and library of educational material and things like that. Just a wealth of knowledge, and it took
I'm just making it up.
It took a little more convincing to get him on board, though. Why don't you tell him about it, Trevor?
But quite frankly, I don't have the time for this. Until you invited me on to this, I had no idea what a podcast is. And quite frankly, I still don't. I'm a little vague about the whole concept.
It's a thing online where people talk to themselves.
Hmm?
It's a thing online where people talk to themselves.
That sounds like most of the internet. From Facebook through web pages and everything in between.
Well, I think too, the idea of bringing Trevor on was that we've had some great guests on the show since I've been on, for sure. And I mean, not to say that I brought them, but in my experience, we've had some great guests on, and we've had several guests on that have been multiple repeat guests. And Trevor, of course, is one of them. And as Steve said, he's a very knowledgeable person, not only in British Columbia or Canada or the Northwest, but literally in the world. He's a world-renowned historian and information about Masonry and those topics. So don't downplay yourself too bad, Trevor.
I appreciate that. And I got to be that by spending an awful lot of time not talking to people, being in the library and the archives.
Yeah, I'm sure you did. And
it continues.
Yeah. Well, you're always working at that. That's like your life passion, isn't it?
I just don't have a life. That's just,
And, but yeah, at the beginning, Connor and I spent many, many hours babbling back and forth. Sometimes we had guests and sometimes we didn't. The show was actually not originally designed to be a guest-driven show. It was a casual conversation about different topics with the hosts just talking about it. And so, yeah, Connor and I talked a lot to each other. At times it must have sounded like we were talking to ourselves. But it's evolved quite nicely. And we've had, oh man, the array of guests has been incredible.
We have become the Masonic talk show hosts.
Yeah, right. Pretty much. Right. And we're very lucky to have quite the network of Masons to talk to. And I mean, just in Washington and BC, I mean, there's so many guys who love to hear themselves talk. I mean, our lineup of people could be going for miles. Right.
Well, speaking of that, we've had some really great repeat guests. Barry Birch, Most Worshipful Brother Barry Birch, has been a wonderful guest on the show from BC, and I see him on other podcast, other shows that are other Zoom events or other meetings that I attend. I say, "Oh, look, there's Most Worshipful Brother Barry." It's fun to see some people that you have met through this venue.
Yes, and Brother Jim Mendoza, a frequent contributor. We really enjoy having him on here. A very dynamic personality that's passionate about the craft, and he lives it. It's in his blood. It's so awesome to see, right?
I think of all the guests that we've had on, the one that I have enjoyed arguably the most, and someone who has become almost a mentor to me, is Team Badger himself, Right Worshipful Brother Moses Gomez from the Grand Lodge of New Jersey, who I have stayed in touch with consistently since, and like I said, has become a mentor to me. And getting to meet him through this has definitely been one of the highlights of my Masonic career thus far. What about you, Matt? What's a guest that's specifically rememberable to you?
I love all our guests equally. It's actually I really have enjoyed all of them. I really enjoyed the Sovereign Grand Commander of Scottish Rite in Canada, Robert Whitmore. I enjoyed talking with him a lot, and also with Julius Brown, the past Grand Master of Prince Hall in Washington and jurisdiction. Both of them. I'm not sure how to say this without sounding stupid. Both of them things were similar enough to what I know of Masonry that there was an obvious relationship and connection there, and things were different enough that I could go, oh wow, that's really cool. I felt like I was learning from both of them a lot, and it was really, both of those interviews I thought were very enjoyable. Those are two of the most recent ones. I'm sure I should delve back further in my brain, but that's what sprang to mind. So,
well, that's what I appreciate about the idea of yes, we do have a conversation. We still have a casual conversation about Masonry, but it's with somebody that's maybe outside of our sphere. Although even though we originally were all outside of our own spheres, we're now friends. And so we constantly talk about it, that this show is as if the meeting's done and we're in the dining hall, or we're inevitably in the foyer, or leaning against the car talking about Masonry. What are those topics? What are those things that you want to continue to talk about that you just can't? And if Moses was able to come and be at your lodge, inevitably we'd be talking about what Masonry is like in Cuba, or any of his experience at 9/11, all of those kind of things. So those are the conversations. Or with Barry, we'd be talking about his program, or his the Masonic Experience program there. And so all of these speakers, even though it is a little more of a guest orientation, it's certainly there's passionate topic and the conversation we'd be having after the meeting or out in the parking lot.
That's right. And I love the fact that it also provides a forum for those to express their passions in about the different things in Freemasonry that excite them, and to hear the stories. I mean, some of the stories of these brothers from the past, their experiences are just incredible, right? And then some of their vocations, and some really Zane McKeown, very interesting man, and Nathan Tweedy, another very enjoyable guest. They all bring different things to the table, and I sure hope that our listeners do get the chance to go and listen randomly to different ones, because they're not all the same, right? Every single one of them has had their unique personality and perspectives and things like that. Right?
Nathan is another one that I've stayed in contact with, mostly because of our mutual distaste of the New York Yankees. So we've managed to get along through that mutual interest there.
Well, speaking of sports, Connor, are you at least familiar with hockey in Canada? Because a recent show, we joked about that our Canadian hosts don't know anything about hockey. I mean, Trevor admitted on air that he didn't know that Canadians said "A" for the first 30 years of your life or something.
Go Gunners!
Well, I'm aware that hockey is a sport, and I believe it has something to do with ice. And there's a little piece of plastic or rubber, and you hit it with a stick, and you try to get it into the net on the other side of this block of ice with the stick.
This is where I cut on the B-roll to the Canadian anthem, and we're all standing.
And if something happens that you don't like, you throw your gloves off, and you throw the stick away, and you start beating up the other team.
Yeah, that sounds more like what I know.
Yeah, that's Canadian, right?
Yeah. Never watched it.
I know cricket and baseball.
Yeah. No, I never watch it. I'm always too busy doing things like this, right?
Oh yeah, you got a working tools tattoo.
Yep. Dave, the first guy that we talked about there, he's a tattoo artist, and I got to give him credit there. He's the one who designed our logo, and he put that right onto my arm for me. And actually, on the fly, he didn't have this thought before, but he found two bands on the microphone that he saw. Oh, well, those are silver bands, and he just decided last minute to use the Masonic cipher and make them say in the code, it reads the Working Tools Podcast, right? And so I figured, why not? I'm already both feet in. May as well just put it on me permanently.
Both feet in an arm.
Yeah, right.
We were joking in the blue room, we called the blue room, where we talked beforehand that since it's the Working Tools Podcast and we're all tools, that maybe we should all have nicknames. We could get a tattoo with our working tool nickname.
I'll let you guys go first on that one.
Matt's going to send an email or ask you send a submission for your favorite show, but maybe we should have a vote for the tool names for each of us. Masonic tool names.
That sounds very dangerous.
Tool, yeah.
Very dangerous.
It could be.
With this 100th episode, we decided to slice it into 3 bite-sized pieces. Please be sure to tune in for the rest of the shows.